Very good. Mr. Basil enthusiastically clapped his paws together as he watched the spider robot Jack and Nika had made move around and perform basic functions, walking around and turning with well-honed control. An excellent and novel design. I'm very impressed. Thank you, sir. Nika gracefully accepted the praise, as the rest of the class gave them polite applause from around the circle they had formed around them. It almost seems remiss of me to ask my next question, but it is related to your homework. The industrial vocation teacher grinned. What were the limitations you faced? And how do you think you could optimize your robot further? Jack, you answer. Well, Jack began. Although it was hard to do, we were able to get our robot to climb walls to a degree. He nervously demonstrated to the class as he directed it to climb partway up the classroom wall by the whiteboard. The creature from my world we base this on uses specialized hairs to be able to cling onto walls, and though we did our best to try and replicate that, it was very finicky and complicated to do. We were able to sharpen barbs to a point which seemed to work on some surfaces, but on smoother or denser surfaces it becomes a problem. How so? Mr. Basil prompted them with a smile, encouraging him to continue. Well, most spiders are really tiny and lightweight, so it's much easier for them than a robot, Jack shrugged. They have multiple tiny hairs that make use of subtle bumps and cracks in a wall, and they hold themselves up this way, I think. So you are saying the natural weight of the bot, and your limited ability to replicate these tiny hairs were your main limitations? Mr. Basil asked, and the two nodded. I see. Much of engineering is about optimization and finding creative solutions to problems we face. So, to that end, and for extra credit... The teacher rubbed his hands together in glee. What possible solution could you have for such a problem? Nika began. Possibly a magical solution. I know there are spells that can enable a person to climb up walls, so enchanting it could work. Ah, Magitech, Mr. Basil shrugged. Mirrodin Magic Technology would love that idea. However, production and cost would be a limiting factor. Jack, what about you? Jack thought to himself, as the reassuring grin from Mr. Basil helped to calm his nerves and allow him to think logically. Mr. Basil mentioned cost, and that stuck with him. Something simple and cheap that could enable the bot to stick. Duct tape? Superglue? No, those were permanent solutions. He thought of DIY YouTube videos he saw using those materials, but dismissed them from his thoughts, until suddenly he recalled a random prank video. A group of lads having a chat, until one of them planted a plunger on the bald head of another. Suckers! Jack suddenly exclaimed, excitedly. Something that uses suction. That would work on smoother surfaces. Excellent! Mr. Basil exclaimed. A cheap and easy fix. Well done. This is some of the best work I've seen, and you've demonstrated an excellent aptitude for problem solving, so you're getting some house points for that, he chirped as the bell rang. See, class, that's what I mean, he continued, as the class began packing up. Always optimizing, always improving. It can be a bane sometimes, but this is an excellent example of why we must keep moving things forward. And that links to your homework. Several groans came from the students as they waited to be dismissed, pulling out their homework diaries to take notes. Yes, I know I don't want to give you homework considering the circumstances, but the school curriculum demands it. Don't worry, the deadline is for the lesson after next, so you have about a month to do it. But I want you all to theorize on any and all ways you can improve or tweak your bots, along with adaptable roles it may be able to form. I want you to think about materials, situations, weight, electronics, cost reduction, that sort of thing. I'll expect several pages of reports, and I want you to dig deep and think hard. Good luck. Class dismissed. Not bad, Nika grinned as they left for biology. Mr. Basil is usually pretty liberal with his praise, but I'll still take it when I can, especially with this shitty week. I'll take my wins where I can get them, Jack nodded in agreement. Shame the fabricator can't deal with finicky things, but Scifi did mention some specialized 3D printers that can work with smaller components. Ugh, more specialized equipment, Nika sighed. Normally I'd agree with you. They're great for fixing up weapons and they're not uncommon. It's already on our shopping list of rapid poverty, but I can't bear thinking about buying one right now. Sorry, Jack patted her on the shoulder. But hey, at least we did something awesome. More interesting than the maintenance droids and industrial robots the others were making. You're not wrong, the Kizan grinned, though mentally braced herself as the both of them lined up for biology class. Well, the recent spats between the various megacorporations of the city have been an amazing opportunity to learn more about corporate culture. Miss Helene beamed, with an enthusiasm shared by absolutely nobody in their Galactic citizenship class. While there are many megacorps located all across the ring, there are a handful with a local presence to us that have been especially bold recently. And today it is these companies that we shall focus on as a case study. Jack's attention had been drawn at that. He had remembered the utter cringe that had been the Guide to Being a Model Employee several weeks ago, that had basically confirmed in his mind that he wouldn't make a very good wage slave, and the introduction by his happy-clappy teacher today helped rationalize it in his mind why going on incredibly dangerous missions for money and resources might not be such a terrible idea after all. Right now, however, he knew it would probably be wise to have a greater understanding of the powers that be, even though he had no intentions of joining them. Now, who can name one of our local megacorps? Miss Helene asked, looking on with patronizing glee as she looked among her sleep-deprived class. Luvia Nestix? Luvia huffed as she raised her head. Night Sky? Very good, Miss Helene chirped in her overly happy sing-song voice. Yes, Night Sky Synergies are one of our local megacorporations that have a presence in Naganai, and one of our school sponsors. Now, can you tell us a few things about them? The pent-up dragon rumbled as she sat up straighter to answer the question. They started as a thieves' guild that moved some of their operations into more reputable business. Allegedly, Miss Helene spoke up a little too quickly. Our school sponsors have nothing but the most stellar of reputations, after all. Please, continue. Well, they're involved in consultation and acquisitions that are totally in no way associated with their rumored origins, Luvia sassily retorted, though not in an overt way that would get her into tension. They're led by the Shadow Council, rumored to number 13 seats, whose members are unknown even to the rest because if any do become known, they are usually targeted for retirement by lower-ranking executives seeking promotion to the freshly vacated seat. The idea being that the council is consistently made up of the most capable employees of the company. Jack gulped. He knew Luvia was using a lot of euphemisms, but since she'd outright said that Night Sky started as a thieves' guild, and probably still was, he could fill in the gaps easily enough. Excellent! Well done! Miss Helene enthused, as she made some notes on the board. Now for another volunteer. I know. Let's see what Mr. Frost has learned during his time here. Jack stiffened in his seat as the teacher whirled around to look at him. Miss? He asked, not quite understanding what she was asking. Another megacorp, if you please, along with what you know about them. The teacher beamed at him. Oh, yeah. Jack recalled the original question. If sleep deprivation was being a bitch to him now, he could only imagine how bad the others were. There's Mirrodin? Mirrodin Magical Technology? Mirrodin Magitechnology, Miss Helene corrected him. Yes, that's correct. Well done, Jack. She praised him in her condescending way. As far as he could tell, there was no deliberate malice on the part of the teacher. They just sounded snobbish. Now, is there anything else you can tell the class about them? Well, as the name would imply, they focus on magical stuff, Jack tentatively replied, not actually knowing much about them, but at least more than the others. Mirrodin also have a lot of wizards, but they also use non-magical troops, which have been seen during their current conflicts. For someone that hasn't been living here too long, that was a good answer, Jack, Miss Helene nodded, indicating for him to be at ease. Yes, Mirrodin naturally attracts many wizards, sorcerers, arcanists, and other magically affiliated alumni from our school, so it is no surprise that they're one of our biggest sponsors. Her smile this time was obviously forced, almost like said sponsors were watching her constantly. Though everyone has the potential to be an employee, regardless of magical ability, Mirrodin operates as a full magiocracy, meaning that those with magical talent are much more likely to become promoted up the ranks, But that is not necessarily a bad thing, Miss Helene hastily added. It is possible for those without magical talent to join the retinue of talented mages, and continue to work under them as their masters rise through the ranks. The Grand Cabal of High Wizards leads the corporation, made up of wizards representing each of the magical disciplines, whose meetings are chaired by an archmage. Yes, Miss Darcy. Isn't the archmage normally more of a ceremonial position? Chio asked, having politely raised her hand. You would be correct, Miss Helene continued. While it is true that power is usually in the hands of the members of the Cabal, the Archmage often mediates disputes and intervenes in the event of a tie during votes. However, in times of crisis, they can exercise certain limited powers with absolute discretion. The Archmage is selected outside of the usual promotion structure of Mirrodin, and is usually a very powerful, well-respected long-serving employee that is uniquely qualified, proven and experienced in many fields. Currently, of course, is the famous Archmage Ilaris Stormbender, who was elected several years ago to much fanfare after a very adventurous history with the company, despite her relatively young age. Damn, I was hoping for Space Gandalf, Jack idly thought to himself as he took notes. Now, from each member of the Grand Cabal stems a hierarchy pyramid that encourages an effective division of labour and hyper-specialisation from their various subordinate departments and sub-departments, all the way to the bottom where interns and new employees all start, and this model has given Mirrodin an absolute advantage in the production of magical goods and services. So, if you are magically inclined, there could be many career opportunities waiting for you. Miss Helene beamed again as she looked out over the class. Miss Salahara, can you name another megacorp for us to talk about? Vanya suddenly jerked in her seat as Svarti poked her awake. Corvin Enterprises, the tuner quickly answered. They specialised heavily in entertainment, but have spread their influence into a lot of other areas as well, most notably food production. Yes. Miss Helene spoke a little more tersely as she began to teach about them. Corvin Enterprises have become the undisputed masters of entertaining the masses on the ring, and are very rapidly growing in power because of it. As many of you know, they have also brought us some of the best films and television programs we've seen in years, like Hellring, for example, though as you rightfully said, they do engage in many other industries and ventures that make them much more diversified than many of the other megacorporations. They are led by Atticus Corvin, though not much else is known about the leadership structure due to their secretive nature. Regardless, if you are looking for a career in the entertainment industry, they will be a great choice of employer. Jack frowned at that. Based on everything he had heard of Corvin Enterprises so far, and the fact that Atticus Corvin was apparently one of the top 10 highest bounties on Hive Station Bastila for some reason, he had an overwhelming feeling that Miss Helene was purposefully leaving out quite a lot of information. Excellent. That's 3 megacorporations. Now I want you to tell me about some more that have a major presence in our city. Miss Glenfarinax? Alora smiled up attentively. Shaskasaki Cybertronics, she answered dutifully, specialising in cybertronics, electronics, and computing technology. They are officially led by a shogunate council consisting of many shareholders or their representatives, but the members of the Shaskasaki family themselves are the vast majority, with the family matriarch, Yocho Shaskasaki, being the current shogun. Well done. Do you have more for us? Yes, but nothing that has been publicly acknowledged by the company. Alora nodded. It is also highly rumoured that an extensive AI matrix is involved with the direct administration of the company, though to what degree is unknown. What is believed, however, is that the directive a shareholder can possess over the AI corresponds to the number of shares they have, leading to unofficial blocks and factions within the Shogunate Council. The AI is rumoured to be advanced and can perform multiple tasks, but the extent of which depends on the direction the Council wills. Good, Miss Helene smiled. As for the company, many of the shareholders have the right to lead projects of their own accord, while others see to running the administration. Senior employees are often expected to own shares if they want further promotion, though this is done in a private exchange with the company, unless, of course, they simply marry into the family. The public trading of Shaskasaki shares is possible, though it comes at a huge risk. Therefore, most shareholders from outside the company use proxies and secret representatives to obfuscate this to the Shogunate Council. Why is the public trading of shares a risk, Miss Helene? Obida asked curiously. I do not believe it is possible to even do so, but if it is... It was accepted to a very limited degree in the past, Miss Helene allowed. It began when members of the Shasakazaki family would sometimes bestow a few of their shares from their estate to trusted friends, long-serving employees or estranged family members in their will upon their death, though the vast majority of their estate stayed directly within the family. In many cases, such wills were simply rendered void by the shogun if they had the means and the power to simply stop it, but this wasn't always possible. The family members who wrote their wills sometimes made arrangements to ensure that their wishes would be carried out, and over the years it became more accepted. Yes, Miss Darcy? Why did Shasakazaki not simply declare the shares null and void? Chio asked, having put her hand up to ask the question. These shares have always been in physical form, a fine-printed neon blue set of nanofibers within a single drive, about the size of a credit chip, and would be traded privately, Miss Helene explained. Due to the way Shasakazaki is structured, any attempt to render the shares null and void would likely cause a collapse, as the matrix system they operate is hard-coded to always follow the directive of these shares. However, this hasn't been a problem for the company, who are usually happy to buy back shares from reasonable parties. Our school has even received some as donations over the centuries, and I am pleased to say that we have been nothing but cooperative in returning these shares back to Shasakazaki in exchange for considerable financial contributions. I've even seen what one looks like. Miss Helene composed herself, as Jack realized she was having fun and being genuine, rather than the snooty corporate mouthpiece that had begun the class. She was probably bored of being trapped in school longer than usual, just as much as her students were. However, she continued, there have been times where shares have ended up in the hands of uncooperative parties or even rivals. The most notorious example in recent times occurring about 8 years ago, where it was discovered that Atticus Corvin was attempting a hostile takeover, which was ultimately foiled, though at great cost to the company. During this attempt, Corvin Enterprises managed to abscond with a considerable portion of Shasakazaki's data and assets, and to this day, Corvin Enterprises have never disclosed how many shares they have, and Shasakazaki themselves will not say how many shares are unaccounted for, and still out there somewhere. It's all very interesting. Anyway, Miss Darcy, since you want to ask questions, it's only fair I get to pick on you next. Another megacorp, please. Viridian Dynamics, Chio answered. They work mostly with robots and automation, though they branch out their portfolio. Originally built by Othello Viridian and his apprentices, they built advanced androids and robots that would help run operations on their behalf, though nobody really knows what the leadership is like now. The public face of the company resides in local management with individual territories, usually only encompassing a few districts in cities like ours. Sometimes a directive is received to travel to specific unclaimed places in the ring to start operations of some kind, though efforts are usually made to keep teams and co-workers together. That's right, the teacher nodded. Though they're not one of the most prolific companies in the city, Viridian Dynamics still has a large enough presence here. Naganai is an excellent staging point for migration caravans, after all, and there are plenty of people who would love the opportunity to leave and work elsewhere, provided it is safe. Viridian are known to look out for their own and treat their employees like family, so if you fancy a career in robotics and their usage, there's something to consider. Any others? Neojoy, Edgro, and Eden Net were the only names Jack could recall hearing before today, though from the answers different students gave, there were quite a few. However, none of them were really as prolific in the city as the first few had been, and Miss Helene was very eager to give details on all of those. By the time the class came to an end, he realized that this Galactic citizenship lecture had actually been a good one, and looking to all of his friends, realized that they thought the same way, though they looked utterly bewildered at the prospect of that. And for homework, I want you to write about the leadership structures of 3 megacorporations of your choice, and compare and contrast. I expect at least 3 pages on the subject. And just like that, Jack hated this class again. Gosh damn it, Scifi groaned, as she fell forward on the sofa the moment they got back. I fucking hate this! Welcome to the club, Jack sighed dryly, as he dumped his bag to sit next to her, playfully running his fingers through her whispery hair as she got comfortable. "We're down 4 days," Chio noted. 9 to go, I think. Fuck this. Nika slumped onto the sofa. Chio, how long do we have until we need to wake up the next day and do all this again? About 8 hours, the Ilithi noted, to groans from everyone. We'd all better get to bed and catch as much sleep as we can, Allura sighed. Still got things to do, Jack noted. Need to check on the fabricator for solar panel production. Dante needs to be walked, and we need to check our guard schedule. Is you and Abida tonight, if you can? Nika told him. Sure, Jack nodded, as he reluctantly got to his feet again. If you want to help me put the panel components in a pile and set everything up for the fabricator to go again tomorrow, we should be good. I'll walk Dante while we have some light and get back to do an all-nighter. You sure you're up for that? Allura asked him, as all those that were still sort of awake went with him to help the fabricator chores go quicker. Yeah, Jack sighed. All you guys will be doing shifts and you're knackered. It makes sense to give you all a clean night of rest. Then when it's the weekend, we might have a bit more time to take naps and stuff, even if we still have to go to school. I've still got charges on the Ring of Lesser Restoration I can still use. What about that other ring you've got? Scifi asked, with a groan from the sofa. Will that help you stay awake at all? I wasn't told much on how it works, aside from giving me some passive benefits, Jack grinned. Clan Barsam didn't know much, except that it's not cursed, and it belongs to me now. No doubt it's a matter of attunement, Chio reasoned. The Ring of the Berserker changed hands often during times of war in Clan Barsam's past, according to that manual you were given, with the effects often changing depending on the owner. I guess we'll see over time, Jack shrugged, as Dante bounded up to him, knowing he'd be walking the dog soon. But I think not being as tired might be on account of my species more than the ring. But I'm not a biologist, so I don't actually know. Well, I have a strong pot of herbs brewing that should help you stay awake, Allura told him. I have enough for tomorrow morning too, and I've already ordered more to the house. We need it. No arguments there, Scifi sighed, as they helped move the last part of the panel onto a pile. Jack, do you want to walk Dante now while the rest of us click these into place? Allura asked. It won't take us long, so we can just set this all up while you're out, then you and Dante can join Abida up at the tower. Sounds good to me, Jack nodded. Come on, boy. Let's go. As the glow of the star above them slowly gave way to the neon glow of the city, Jack trudged down the cracked pavement of a safe but quick path around the area just outside of their home district. The mostly desolate farming community had few residents, though Jack did politely wave to the elderly folk sat on rocking chairs outside the few homes that were still occupied. The prospect of claiming a few of the abandoned residences closest to the home district for the benefit of their displaced schoolmates had been raised, but Scifi had pointed out that those buildings were completely disconnected from the grid, and all but uninhabitable. It was a good idea, though, despite having no need to expand right now. Perhaps they could be reclaimed later, once they finished renovating their home district first. Just like playing Civ, or maybe Crusader Kings, Jack muttered to himself, as Dante ran about the fallow fields, zipping to and fro, enjoying the freedom. Maybe try and avoid total war for now, though, he mused with a chuckle, as Dante zipped around the ruins of a bygone era. Jack hoped that the dog would do his business out here, though he had no intention of cleaning up after him. Abandoned land left to nature meant that it didn't really matter too much, and the general area that they lived in wasn't well traversed. He knew it was a poor habit to develop, but right now Jack didn't care. He was tired. All of them were. Jack encouraged Dante to have a good run, and having swiped a tennis ball from the school sports hall several days earlier, was also content to teach the dog how to play fetch while he sat on a log, the cool surface providing a welcome contrast to the heat of his stressful day. As Dante happily ran as fast as he could down the open meadow, Jack took the time to take in the sights in front of him. It wasn't quite a sunset, as instead of the sun disappearing below the horizon of the Earth due to the planet rotating, it was due to a vast solar plate above that absorbed the energy of the local star, like one of their solar panels but on a colossal scale, that somehow kept the god construct running. It was a strange phenomenon that he wasn't yet used to, as though the shadows caused by the plate caused some warning. It was often something that came quickly, almost like a light switch turning off. He had promised to be back before that time, though, so he couldn't stay here for long. but he still intended to take in the sight while he was alone. An alien place, an alien city, an alien society. He would never be truly used to it, but for now, it was home. All there was to do was move forward. School had been hell, but at least he had felt relatively safe and secure in the routine, despite it currently being torturous. No prefects had harassed him, no teachers had bullied him, and no classmates had pissed him off. He hoped that was a trend that would continue, and right now, though he was on his own, Jack wasn't scared. He felt normal, in a way. At least for this moment. "Good boy," he grinned, as he saw Dante bounding back to him with the ball clasped firmly in his jaws. "Want to do that again?" "Woof!" Dante barked happily, as Jack got to his feet. Gripping the ball again, Jack could feel more of the stress of the day fading away, though he had no doubt it would return soon enough. He glanced at Dante, whose eyes sparkled with excitement, before he hurled the ball into the meadow. "Go!" Dante wasted no time. With a burst of energy, he bolted after the ball, bounding down the slope of the ridge, and rapidly skimming over the grass and wildflowers, becoming a blur of motion as he disappeared into the distance. Jack chuckled to himself as he lost sight of the dog, but knowing Dante wasn't too far away. Though they left him with plenty of food and water to eat during the day, and though he had the run of the district while they were away, Jack knew how important it was to keep Dante active, though with the rapid rate he was able to run and retrieve the ball, he wondered if he shouldn't try and buy something to extend his throw, like he often saw dog owners back home use. Then again, he didn't have any more balls he could throw if he lost this one, at least until he could pinch more from the school sports hall. Soon enough, Dante came running back, and Jack knew that despite wanting to stay longer, that would need to be it for the day, as he sensed the beginning of what passed for sunset here. "Sorry, boy, but we've got to be back," Jack smiled sadly as he patted Dante's head. As they headed back and reached the district, the last rays of light quickly gave way to darkness, as he sighed as he closed the gate behind him and made his way up the tower for more guard duty. At least it gave him a good view.